Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Relief Factor Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. It always happens right before a show where I discover something, and it's like I just start reading it, and it's like, oh, man, I can't digest it fully by the time I get on the air. And this was the Manhattan Institute doing a poll on thousands and thousands of Democrats, either registered Democrats and or those who voted for Kamala Harris in 2024.
Yeah.
Includes oversamples of Hispanic and black voters. All right. So
Yeah.
they did this whole thing. And what they're trying to find out, it's something that you and I have talked about. Is it the Democratic Party that is moving far left? Or is it the people inside, the people that vote Democrat, that wish to move far left? And he said the conclusion, I don't have, because they just put it in the first paragraph, more voters favor moving the party towards the ideological center than further left, which again is our point. And we'll get into this when we digest all of this, just to bring up the important points. Because I will say this, that may make sense because so many, and this is anecdotal evidence, but so many Democrats that I know just don't say anything in 2026. They just don't talk.
Right.
They just don't say anything. It's like they don't come out in favor. And I'm talking about every single Democrat acquaintance, some going back that I've known as far as college, that were very, very vocal on certain, for example, things like Obamacare and, more government resources.
Mm-hmm.
They played the identity politics thing for a little while, and nothing do they post public anymore. Now, they may be doing it on Blue Sky, but they're not doing it in the arena of ideas, and that's really, really important.
Yeah, we know that the protests, the large protests that make the news are heavily organized. We know that. Where is that chatter from the rank and file on the left? Where is it? Where is this real feel of a grassroots uprising on any of these major issues? When you look at it, the one poll that sticks out to me recently is the college students saying they felt compelled to go along. They were afraid that they would be shunned by other students, or even worse, that they wouldn't be able to make the grade if they spoke out against liberal causes. And that has to be the case. If that is the case with that age group, then you have to extrapolate that out, that even though they still vote Democrat, where are they? They're not going to speak out, or they do when someone like-minded talks to them about it, and they go, oh, yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. And on the inside, they're going, no, I'm not going to be at the protest. Not going to happen. George Soros can't pay me enough money to be there, because they actually don't believe in it. Actually, speaking about somebody that I know over the weekend with a family member, and we were going back and forth, and we believe that this person is kind of, because they posted some things on social media, just responses to other people. It's like, whoa, they don't think that way. And then we thought, oh, wait a minute. Their job setting is very high profile, right? So everybody at their work, including the owners of their work, are on their social media. And you don't want to step out of line, just like with college students. And I thought to myself, That's a shame.
Oh, can you imagine? Now, we're coming from a unique perspective where we do this, but I couldn't imagine doing that even before I became somebody who comments on the news all the time,
Right.
and where it's public what I believe. But I can't imagine ever. I go back to the lyrics of the song. I'd rather be hated for who I am, for loved for who I'm not.
Yeah, right.
I couldn't imagine being in that place. I can't imagine being in college where you're like,
Right.
I'm paying for my college education and they're forcing me to go along with them.
I'm paying to be a stooge.
Right. Exactly. Thank you. That's perfect.
I'm paying to be a stooge.
I'm paying to be a stooge. It's not that they're paying me, because you can make the point, okay, people are concerned, economics, basic economics. People are concerned with their own self-interest. That would be the compromise. I'll pretend I'm going along with them, even if I don't, because I'm making money and good money to do so, and it's relatively less hassle. If I do it, can understand it. I couldn't do it, but I can understand it.
Well, you and
now,
I...
But imagine you're paying.
No.
You're paying to be a stooge.
Yeah, because the moment I spoke out against a professor and argued with a professor, or had a debate with a professor, and then all of a sudden it went wrong. Here's the question. Have there been or might there be lawsuits of, look, I debated this professor on this, and it was very clear. They retaliated with my grades. Look at my grades, but I showed up every day. I can pass any test, but I didn't go along with them.
It's already happened. Remember on some kind of essays?
Was there a lawsuit on it?
I think there was a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Where you're supposed to do an essay, and the professor disagreed with the essay and gave them I don't know what the mark was, but there was a law. I can't remember how that was resolved.
Right.
But the lawsuits happened.
Well, and because that's the first thing that I would think of. You're not going to take tens of thousands of dollars, possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars for me. I'm not going to be studying the arts. I mean, if I were to have gone to college, it likely would have been, studying criminal justice. It would have been almost 100%, probably. And that it was a different era. We're talking 1984, 1984. and I have friends that went that route at the university that I would have attended in the town where I graduated high school, and they did fine. And I've seen no complaints from them. They're doing great. Have had long, successful law enforcement careers. But nonetheless, if I did, let's say I chose to, for whatever reason, go to, because that university is in Texas, of course, but there's we got plenty of liberals down here. Trust me. And that's which, by the way, if you ever hear this, we're going to turn Texas blue. A lot of that comes from those campuses, from that age group, those students. They really do believe, we're going to turn Texas blue. And with some of the migration for jobs they have turned some of the counties blue. But I wouldn't ever be able to sit there and just do that with the professor saying something without debating them. And I think even without this experience, all these years of doing this, it would still be the same. Because, think about it, when that person that we know was commenting, they weren't exactly ambiguous in their comments, but they weren't full on, protester mode. It wasn't like they were, it was just comments that were clearly supportive of things and that I know they don't believe. And and it looked like a cross between, it came off as them trying to basically be nice.
Well, it's interesting because somebody who I know, who I saw a few weeks ago, and I've been friends with this person for decades. And occasionally I'll see a social media post, and it's like, okay, where do they stand? It seems like they may be leaning left. Well, I saw them a few weeks ago for the first time in a while. First thing this person asked me, what do you think about this whole radical transgender movement? This is insanity. It's misogyny. It's I'm like, I'm just smiling going, okay, we're fine here.
Yeah, right.
But I do remember, yes, I would have done it before I became a talk show host because I did it in 10th grade.
Mm-hmm.
In Dr. Charles C. Marlack's class when they had the substitute teacher who came in.
Right.
That would have been 10th grade. And she said there's no difference between communism and our system of government.
Right.
Well, come on. Maybe that was the key. I was going to end up doing this. But it infuriated me. I mean, I was, as a 10th grader, as immature as I was as a 10th grader, because at that point I was still cheating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I need to cheat on a test, I would still cheat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I was no perfect teenager in any manner or form. If I could do it the easy way, I would. But my father spent so much time explaining to us the difference between it. I remember being angry when she said that because I knew it was a lie. And I guess as a kid, you sit there and you say to yourself, well, I can lie, but they can't.
Well, no, I mean, it is the there's one thing when you just see BS pass you by. It's another thing when it's a BS locomotive coming your way with and at full speed and you just know you have to stop it.
And I guess this is all part of it. I mean, this all fits into the one thing I was thinking about this weekend that we're all thinking about. There were a number of articles written about it. The instant responses from Democrats without analyzing what they're saying to the point where Democrat leaders are making no sense anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't even make any sense. It's just a no against Trump. And I know people are saying, well, when Trump is gone, this is going to end. No, it's not.
No, it isn't.
No, it's not. I mean, has it increased? Yes. But the same thing was said, you know, people thought, I remember the Democrats talking about how, you know, Reagan was senile and crazy.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I remember those days. And then Bush, the second Bush.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, speaking of Reagan, I remember, I don't know if it was Time Magazine, Newsweek, I don't remember, but it was a hard copy of a magazine. Well, back then we only had hard copies. But and it was hard. But
we liked it that way.
And we liked it that way. You know, sharing it with other people countless people who have touched it in a medicine office and a doctor's office, whatever you call those things. But I remember looking at the illustration on this magazine. And it was an illustration of President Reagan at the time in the hospital bed, you know, with his eyes closed and the whole thing on, you know, basically the idea was him being on life support, and a devilish looking George H.W. Bush beside him. And it was the liberal activist media back then basically portraying this, oh my gosh, if, you know, because Reagan, oh my gosh, he's so old, and as you mentioned, he's senile. We might be stuck with George H.W. Bush. I mean, they couldn't help themselves. And that impression has always been in my mind, and I thought to myself, where in the world? Now, I wasn't old enough to vote for Reagan in 1980, so I paid an older guy to vote for me. But in Chicago,
I killed a guy and then he voted for me.
In 1984, of course, and you know that was different. But I, even as a kid, I didn't get into the political debates, but I saw that cover of that magazine, and I was just, my gosh, these people are just bat soup crazy.
We are Red Eye Radio.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller. Drivers must always be prepared for a roadside inspection. This means drivers should always have their personal, vehicle, and company credentials organized and ready. The top 2 violations written against drivers every year are log, general form and manner, and log not current. Both are completely avoidable if the driver keeps the log accurate, compliant, and current at all times. Having the vehicle ready for inspection involves the driver conducting daily inspections and making sure any problems that are discovered are immediately corrected. Vehicle readiness also requires the company to make sure that the vehicle is current on all scheduled maintenance and that the maintenance schedule is adequate. This will make sure the driver is being given a sound vehicle to start with. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. It's what's really interesting about, and I'm going to read that and analyze it. We're going to do that and talk about it on a future show, because really this is the most comprehensive thing that I've seen that's been done yet on the Democrats here as the midterm elections are coming up. And the article is titled, and it's in the Manhattan Institute has it. You can find it on their website. Do Democrats want to be normal? Survey analysis of today's Democratic coalition as to where they stand. Do you think, we talked about the president using crazy. And this just popped into my head right now. If I'm marketing for the Republicans, I would also use the word normal. Why aren't they normal?
Right.
And then I would use what they say. This is what they believe. This isn't normal. If you don't want to be perceived, because I was thinking to myself, if you're using crazy in every one, it's sort of like when Republicans were saying, Obama's lying, he's lying, he's lying, he's lying. And you and I actually said, you think Obama lies on purpose? So the Republicans just keep saying he's lying, he's lying, he's lying. And then the public just turns off the Republicans and go, come on, he can't be lying about all this stuff. But if you say normal and then play the audio cut after it, crazy does not, crazy, it applies, but to some, if you're trying to hit every demographic, can be viewed, especially the ignorant, if they don't understand the issues, as being over-the-top rhetoric. But if you say, why aren't these people normal?
Yeah, I think
that, go ahead.
I think that's, it was in the last few weeks, you and I, because we're seeing so much of the videos, it's part of the job. But I think really the average person, anybody paying attention, is seeing it too, right? It's coming up in the algorithm on social media, YouTube, wherever it is. And I see this clip, and I don't remember what it was, if it was from The View, if it was from CNN, MS Now. I don't remember. But the liberal activist media, right? And I'm thinking to myself, it's so different than it was before. They've always been crazy. We know they're wrong on the issues. We know they're lying about the issues. We know they're pushing the agenda for the far left, for the radicals. But I looked at it and I said to myself, there has to be somebody, and it's not just because I oppose them. There has to be a number of people on the left, rank and file, that look at them and go, no. And part of the proof of that theory, or backing up that theory, is what we're seeing with the liberal activist media and the erosion of their audience. This is, if they're not there. I don't know what the numbers are at MS Now, but I guess they're still,
Fox
still
is
on the air.
Fox is like the top 20 shows.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it has to be a big part of that, I believe, has to be the liberal rank and file looking at that going, I just can't watch this madness. It's cartoonish. They just come off, they don't even talk like real people talk. And it's on every issue. It's not just on one thing. Whatever happens, all of a sudden, their reaction is going to be crazy. But even the train wreck effect isn't working for them now in the media. Just look at the ratings.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Relief Factor Studios.
And I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. Coming up here in just a couple of minutes, a perfect audio cut to really describe what we've been talking about. The Democrats just not making any sense. We'll get to that coming up.
Yeah, it is crazy. And some great audio coming up as well. I want to share something with you. Over the weekend, I was helping my dad with a project. He called me a couple of weeks ago. You know a contractor that could help me with this big project in my yard? And I said to myself, I think I can do that. And I said, Dad, I'll do this. I got my power tools together over the weekend. I went up there before taking Relief Factor. That wouldn't have been a choice. I actually would have had to call somebody. But after taking Relief Factor, the pain was not an issue. My joints, my lower back, not an issue. I knew I could, before, during, and after a project like this, it was going to be no problem. I want that same effect for you. There are things in life you can't control. This is something you can do something about. Relief Factor, 100% drug-free, research-based formula that works on your body's natural inflammatory response. 4 key ingredients. Get started today. The 3-week quick start is just $19.95. Just $19.95. It's a bargain. ReliefFactor.com. Call 800-4RELIEF. That's ReliefFactor.com, 800-4RELIEF. Use Red Eye in the drop down and get this great deal, your 3-week quick start of Relief Factor, just $19.95.
Coming up following the top of the hour, or here in a little bit, because we got so much to talk about. The economic news came out on Friday. On the job front, not good, but on the productivity front, yeah. All right, we'll actually start coming up in a little bit with the positive that came out of it,
right,
and try to guess where that's coming from, or not guess. A critical thinking hypothesis of where that's coming from.
Right.
Does that sound better than a guess?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. But first, you and I talking about the just before I came on the air, I just happened to see it, the City Journal piece, and we'll get to it probably tomorrow or the next day here on the show. But I just saw it. It's a long article with lots of statistics talking about does a Democratic voter want to be normal?
Right.
You know, the party doesn't, but does the voter? And it led us to what we've seen really since the State of the Union address.
Yeah. When
Trump said, you know, they're crazy out there. And then, you know, when the Iran thing started, they immediately jumped on and said, it's illegal, it's illegal, it's illegal. Well, it wasn't illegal.
No.
We explained to you why it wasn't. And then, you know, when the president actually consulted Congress on it, which actually, you know, fits the War Powers Act, which again, constitutionally, it has no bearing on a president.
Right.
But the president followed anyway and talked, you know, and advised the Gang of Eight as to what was going on. Now that Congress has voted on it and said, okay, yes, and the majority of the House, you know, has basically voted on that Iran is an enemy of the United States, a terrorist organization, everything. They're still screaming it's illegal.
Right.
And it's like, well, no, he's gone through the process that you've actually asked him to do. It's gone through the legislative part of it, and you're still saying it's illegal. It's not making any sense. Here's Jonathan Turley on this over the weekend.
The position of senior.
Okay, do we have it there? Okay.
The position of senior Democrats is not just hypocritical, it's now incomprehensible. You have people like Pelosi, Blumenthal, who are expressing revulsion that there was not prior consultation authorization. These are the same people that said that President Obama did not require that authorization for an 8-month war where he attacked the capital city of a foreign country without any imminent threat in an open effort to have regime change. And they green-lighted that and said, you don't have to come to us. And so it's bizarre for them now to say, well, but this is a War Powers Act violation. Trump is in compliance with that act. Look, presidents since Jefferson have been boxing in Congresses over their ability to start wars. I mean, they have a right to initiate combat operations. That's been accepted since the beginning of the Republic. Once you're in those operations, it's very hard to get that cat to walk backwards. But these members are in direct contradiction to their prior positions.
Well, so a spokesperson for former Speaker Nancy Pelosi says there is an absolute distinction between the limited military operations in Libya and the broad escalating war with Iran initiated by President Trump. They're calling it a war of choice.
That, I got to tell you, that dog won't hunt. I represented members challenging the Libyan war. We lost that case. And the fact is, courts have deferred to presidents and to Congresses in the use of their respective authorities here. But to say that Libya was in any way a limited war is perfectly bizarre. I mean, we took out columns of military units. We attacked the capital city. We made it clear that we wanted regime change. What's limited about that?
And that's where you get to the point of it's like it's not making any sense anymore. And you take on top of that, you think about the State of the Union, then this, and then you think of Talarico.
Yeah,
I mean the Talarico's just getting bombarded.
Yeah, you mentioned State of the Union, and he mentioned Blumenthal during the. I don't know if you noticed it, but I was watching it live. Blumenthal, every time that Trump said something, he was just staring over at his party to see if they were going to applaud or not. And then if they started applauding or something, he would applaud. It was so ridiculously Blumenthalish. But when you look at this, look, nobody likes to see where the price of oil is. I just checked; it was $115 a barrel. I was pawning my wedding ring over the weekend to buy some gasoline, and I thought to myself, this is going to hurt people. This is something. This is the pain we're going to feel. The president trying to basically temper that with, it's a small price to pay. I would use different words. I would say this is not permanent. That's what I would have said. And in the long run, this is going to mean energy is plentiful around the globe. The United States is going to be the biggest part of that, and we're going to have cheap and plentiful energy for the foreseeable future. But this has to happen. And, but there was a lot made in the media, especially on as prices got over $100 a barrel on oil. But the other side of that, the other part of this entire equation is other nations looking at Iran going, this is on them. And yes, this has to happen. Khamenei's son being named the new Ayatollah, supreme leader. And I thought to myself, well, good luck with that. That's not going to end well for him. Because that does not, and I know they keep saying it's not about regime change, while they're pretty much explaining how it's about regime change. And that is not going to constitute regime change. And the president, I think, gave him just a little bit of leeway. I think the president was just trying to, again, throw out a crumb of diplomacy and saying, well, unless he cooperates, he's not going to, we know he's not going to cooperate. I know the president knows that he's not going to cooperate. It's going to be more of the same, if not worse. His father was, 86? And he's 53, 54-ish. And you look at that, and of course, he and other Iranian, what's left of the Iranian leadership regime, talking about President Trump's going to have to pay the price, and all of this. We know for a fact that Iran was behind 2 assassination attempts of Trump, and we know that there's no doubt that they want revenge for what's going on. The question is, what is their ability, and how close are we to crushing them? But the consensus, getting back to the response to this, the consensus globally has been by most nations. Listen, this was bound to happen, and nobody ever thought it. Well, this had to happen. It wasn't bound to, but it had to happen, and nobody thought it was actually possible. And here we are. It's not going to be easy.
No, I mean there's extremely tough things coming up here. I mean, what are they going to do once they finish, the entire military? I mean, a lot of articles about, well, do you really want the Kurds in there? Or do the people have to have an uprising?
Right.
Trump talking about special forces, guarding the nuclear material, U.S. special forces, going in and doing it. Something I just wanted to mention this here because it just shows you on social media. There's one YouTube page that I've been following. It's called, what is it? AI Telly. I don't know if you've seen it come up, but it's all this animation about what the fight is going on over in Iran, the specifics, what the military is doing, what they're targeting, and everything. And it looks great.
Yeah.
Until you look at it and you say, well, how do they know that's exactly what an Iranian bunker looks like? And, because I was going down the number of floors and I'm like, how do they know that? I mean, when I saw that, I'm like, there might be a ton of classified information if this was true, or are they just guessing? Are they making stuff up? And then I went to AI and said, is this website accurate? And it said, well, they're known not to be accurate, even though it's a website for engineering and military things. They said it's a two-person thing, but I was watching this going, because you watch it and you go, wow, this is great what the U.S. military is doing. And then I went, but is it accurate?
Yeah. Right.
Now, we know the bunker busters are getting in there, but they got into such specific detail where I'm like, okay, where are their sources? How do I know this is true? And then I realized, okay, that's one of the things on social media. I don't know. You can see the most slicked up kind of animation and analysis of what is actually, what they say is actually going on in a war, and you're watching and like, wow, this is really great. Wow, they really, and then I stepped back and went, where are the sources for this? Right. How do I know this is accurate?
Right.
And so that's, I just want
to. It's hard to know what to trust right now.
Yeah, I just want
and I have to believe that we have the technology, and there is intel available. The question is that the basis, or are they just guessing? Are they just saying, here's how it would be built if you were going to build it this way, and the infrastructure? We learned, I think it was over the weekend, everything is happening so fast. I mean, the notifications that are coming through on all my devices, it's mind-boggling. But we learned, I think Wall Street Journal did one of the pieces on this, of both China and Russia's involvement. But Russia's involvement specifically was about providing intel for Iran. And you think of the Americans that were killed, the 6 Americans that were killed, that were at a makeshift or a temporary operations center at a port in Kuwait. And when that happened, when we finally learned, how they died, the 6 died at that one facility, I said to myself, there's no way Iran has that level of intel. So they have partnerships. Which of those other nations that they work with got them that intel? And the word is, it's Russia. And China, of course, has been building a game alongside Iran for the longest time, for oil primarily, but also access to that region. So this goes beyond just Iran, which is enough, but it goes beyond Iran, and it's still extremely dangerous, even though so much destruction has been done against Iran. This is still an uphill battle, and it's still going to take a while before we're in the clear.
We are Red Eye Radio.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. One more from Jonathan Turley, by the way, who's a lifelong Democrat.
Yeah.
As Democrats refuse to fund DHS, the trial of the ringleader behind the Iranian plot to assassinate President Trump is going on in New York. With the unlawful entry of thousands of unvetted Iranians during the Biden administration, the position of Democrats is incomprehensible. The only hope is that the Iranian sleeper cells will assume this is a trick because no government would be moronic enough to cut funding for Homeland Security in the midst of a fight with the world's leading sponsor of terrorism. Well, if they've been over here, they know that, yes, they would.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and, I mean, look, there are so many questions going forward here. But this is not going to be, I think, another thing that President Trump's going to be up against in this whole thing is there right now are a lot of people watching the clock. You know, they want this to be over in a week or so, and it's not going to be.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Relief Factor Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thanks for being here. Wow.
Yeah.
In the Jesse Jackson funeral, his son just livid.
Yeah.
At Obama, Clinton, and Biden.
Yeah.
For making it political when he said beforehand, made it clear he did not want his father's funeral to be political.
Yeah. By the way, that's a reasonable request given that Jesse Jackson really hasn't been part of the political scene in recent years. He wasn't as nearly as active as he was, back when he ran for president and during his heyday in terms of his activism. But it is a reasonable request. You talk about the life, honor the life. You have a family that's grieving. You know what President Trump posted about him,
Oh, yeah.
But, we set him up in Trump Tower for his organization and, basically making the point that maybe we didn't agree on everything, but he was always nice about it and respectful about it. And that's, but I think to myself, for the family of Jesse Jackson, and you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You have to invite these former presidents, but they had to have known. There's no way they don't get political during this whole thing. And there's your conundrum. Because you don't want to not invite them, then that looks like you're shunning them, right? And their relationship with Jesse Jackson over the years. And you can't have that. That's, So, but he did. Jesse's son asked for them to not be political.
Here's what he said. Do not bring your politics out of respect for the Reverend Jesse Jackson and the life that he lived to these ongoing services. Come respectful and come to say thank you. But these ongoing services are welcome to all, Democrat, Republican, liberal, and conservative, right-wing, left-wing, because his life is broad enough to cover the full spectrum of what it means to be an American, Jackson said in February, one day after his father's death. And then, here's what he had to say afterwards. Here we go. Let's play this.
All right.
Audio. Here we go.
Yesterday, I listened for several hours of 3 United States presidents who do not know Jesse Jackson.
That was it. I mean, that was the
huge.
shot.
Yeah,
that
was a gut punch. If you're either one of those, any one of those former presidents,
understand that he shouldn't be surprised.
No, that's what I was saying. You're darned if you do. You know you have to invite them, right? Because you can't. If you don't invite them, it's like you're shunning them, and they're not welcome. But he had said everyone's welcome.
But he shouldn't be surprised because everything is political to the Democrats. There isn't anything that isn't political.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, if it's
what would they have talked about?
It's absolutely obvious that anything the Democrats that they get involved with, anything that they get involved with. Look, I mean, the Talarico.
Yeah.
Trying to tailor religion to his liberal beliefs. He's not talking about Christianity.
No.
He's not talking about what Christianity is about. He's trying to take his radical views and say this is what Christianity believes.
Right.
He's not having a great deal of success doing it.
No.
But because he's gotten just blistered since he won against Jasmine Crockett last week.
But if you think about the Jesse Jackson funeral, the service, the three individuals, those three former presidents, again, I've said this before on a number of issues. When you value life, in a moment like that, you can talk about somebody's life if you truly had a relationship with them without making it political, even if you're a former president on that side. But you have to, it starts with valuing life, putting a value in a life and respecting the human life that is gone and those who remain, his family who are left behind in that moment. You can honor somebody. And this is what you just heard. They did not know him. It's because they don't care about life. They don't care about the efforts. And whether you agree or disagree with Jesse Jackson, I mean, it's iconic, really. It was. I don't remember a time during his heyday. I mean, it was just his name was always in the news. He was ever present. And again, I didn't agree with him on anything.
No.
But in the moment of honoring him in the wake of his death and also honoring his family, how can you have to start with valuing life. You have to value life in the first place to recognize what it takes to go from where he was, depending on how long you knew him or what you knew about him. And that's what you just heard from his son. They didn't know him. They didn't know him because they didn't care to learn about him because they don't value life.
Yeah. And, but I was, he should have been surprised by it. Maybe a little angry because it's like, I told you not to do this.
Yeah.
Not to make it political, but everything is political.
Yeah, there was no way that wasn't going to be.
To the left today. There isn't any, there is nothing that they won't make political, including the security and safety of the United States. If you've got a party who believes in sanctuary cities, that believes that criminal illegal immigrants should be protected from deportation.
Yeah.
If you believe in the misogyny and the sexism of the radical transgender movement, that you believe that men should be able to walk around naked in front of women and that women don't have a choice and they don't have private places.
Yeah.
Where they can feel safe and secure. Well, then, for God's sakes, anything, religion, everything that goes on in your life. Now, there has been a little bit of a reversal now. What is it? Was it Robert Kennedy Jr. speaking when he was talking about fast food, and now it's the Democrats defending fast food, which is just
yeah, right. When they used to, go after fast food companies. Remember the whole food desert thing, where they were saying there's nothing but fast food in these poor neighborhoods. They don't have access to nutritional food, real nutrition, fresh food, and we need to limit. At one point, they were saying this: we need to limit the development of new fast food locations in these areas. And now they're defending fast food.
And by the way, that comes from Robert Kennedy Jr. That doesn't even come from Trump. We still don't like his pick for the head of the HHS.
No.
We do not like, we have never liked, ever, Robert Kennedy Jr.
Right.
For any position within the Republican Party is absolutely reprehensible. There isn't a groundswell of Republicans wanting the federal government to ban sugary foods.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It just seemed to catch social media fire. But what I look for, if we're talking about someone like an RFK Jr., I'm looking for a change of heart where he comes in, because many on social media who defend or support things that he says that are otherwise on the right or in the populist right, group, I guess you could say, go out of their way to defend him. And I look at that and say, well, wait a minute. Hold on. They're like giving the thumbs up on everything he's saying. Here's what it comes down to for me. I want to know if you truly belong in this fight for conservative principles, which includes health care, which includes information on health care. You need to show me, you need to demonstrate to me the change of heart. Because the only thing I look at this as is that he was running, Trump came to an agreement, and if you drop out of the race, we'll fold you into the administration and you can work in this capacity.
Well,
and that was
but
it.
But the influencers that aren't really influencing as much anymore, the Trump influencers that jumped on the bandwagon of a Robert Kennedy Jr. But there is no groundswell. You hear any talk from any Republican about banning fast foods or banning sugary foods? No. We live in a free society. It doesn't mean that you ought not to be responsible.
Right.
Sugary foods have been out there my entire life.
Well, I support the legalization of sugary foods. This is something that actually. I supported legalization of marijuana, but ask me if I think sitting around smoking pot all day is a good thing.
Yeah,
the answer is no. Right. It is not.
Now we're going back to when that story came out last week. I'm like, oh my gosh, don't start talking about banning fast. Please don't say that. Please don't say that. Please. And he didn't. But it's just like, oh man.
Well, and this idea of eat real food and all of this, I'm sorry, I don't need a pyramid to tell me what my diet needs to be. I just don't. If you want to go like octagon, that shape, maybe. Pyramid, I don't need a food pyramid.
But everything is political, so don't be surprised. It doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
Democrats are going to make it political, and they're going to be outraged about it. But are they actually convincing people? And that's one of the things that we have talked about. When will a significant portion of the Democratic Party finally say, like somebody like a Fetterman or someone like a Bill Maher, where they're looking at it and they go, my God, there's major flaws, but Bill Maher is still voting. Every single show, he's pounding on the Democrats for their insanity, but still will vote for them.
Yeah. Yep.
He's sort of indicative, or I wonder if he's indicative of the average Democrat out there today that looks and goes, my party is crazy, but I'm going to continue to still vote for them because the other side is crazy. I can't think of an issue that they're crazy on, but I just don't like Trump because he's mean.
Right. I just don't like
Because-
the guy, but it comes down to one guy. The question is the ideas being promoted by the other side. Which one do you believe in, and which look at how crazy the liberals have been and radical they have been, and tell me how you can wholeheartedly support that. You're either a radical or not, period.
We are Red Eye Radio.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Partnerships to promote the recently released Dietary Guidelines for Americans. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins with the announcement at USDA headquarters this week.
The initiation of the Dietary Guidelines for Americans strategic partnerships.
The Secretary explaining the partnerships will span various sectors in educating Americans about the new dietary guidelines. Participants ranging from health experts to retailers. She adds this is the latest example of DGA partnerships in a historical context.
USDA has long partnered with organizations and companies from across the private sector to promote the DGAs and messaging with the shared goals of helping consumers make better choices.
More information about the Dietary Guidelines for Americans and Recommended Food Pyramid is available online at www.realfood.gov. I'm Ron Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, we'll hit some of the economic news that came out on Friday. One good thing, productivity up, which means people are, and wages, which means people are making more money because they're producing more.
Right, yeah.
Now, is it because they're using AI? Is that part of it? We'll get to that coming up. But really, a great article in the Washington Examiner about James Talarico, who beat Jasmine Crockett last week in the Democratic Senate primary.
Yeah.
And about some of the things that he has stated. And it's funny because David Harzeni wrote, he said, sure, enlightened leftists have long mocked believers of the sky god as both irrational and anti-science. In truth, they've only been frustrated by the inability to appropriate Christianity to spread their distinctly secular morality. For decades, candidates come and go, promising to reclaim Christianity for the left. Now, I'm not a Christian myself, but I'm not fond of frauds. Well, it's a tongue twister.
Yeah.
Fond of frauds either. And even I can see that the problem with Talarico's pious rhetoric is that his faith doesn't inform his political values, but rather the reversed. It justifies his liberalism. Talarico, for instance, argued that God is non-binary. I strongly suspect that most devout Christians would take issue with applying these things to their Lord and Savior. Even now, Talarico insists that most people in Texas understand that God is beyond gender, just as the Apostle Paul, who allegedly made the case in his letters to the Galatians. If I could speak to the Apostle Paul, who refers to God as the Father in Galatians while using masculine pronouns, I'd probably be more curious to know which of the 6 different sexes he was going to choose, the number the Texas representative came up with while opposing a bill prohibiting trans boys from playing on girls' high school teams. Oh, I just love it. Talarico doesn't prove modern progressivism is compatible with traditional notions of faith, but rather modern liberalism is more prone to embrace social science quackery than the average social conservative. And the final thing he writes, in Talarico's worldview, gender is highly changeable in both nature and faith, but skin color is an immutable characteristic that predetermines not only a person's thoughts and actions, but his innocence and guilt. a view that undercuts the entire notion of free will and basic science.
Wow.
Oh, my gosh, that's just greatness.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, my gosh, that's just...
I love that. You know,
they're so... In the arena of ideas, they're extremely childlike.
And also desperate. And when it's... So apply those two elements right there. Childlike and desperate. When kids get desperate, they make up stuff that you wouldn't. I mean, this is exactly what it's like listening to a child make an excuse or conjure up some kind of lie. Which tells you what? They're trying to get out of something. And it really is unbelievable what some of these Democrats are trying to do. Talarico among them.
Catch Red Eye Radio live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks for being here. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose.
And thank you.
All right. So looking at the economic news that came out, let's start with the positive.
Okay. That won't take long.
2.8% productivity increase last year, or in the last year. That's good.
Yeah. That's good. Very good.
That's very, very good.
Very good.
You and I wondering, and we don't have the answer. We don't have the specific. One thing about this economy, it is so incredibly large and diverse.
Yeah.
It's a lot of times you'll see a lot of different numbers, and you'll see the monthly numbers where you'll have whoever's in power jump at the monthly numbers if they're good, like, see, we told you. And when it's bad, nobody says anything.
Right.
But the fact is, we've never looked at, I don't care who's in office, and if you've listened to this show, you can verify it for any length of time. We never judge an economy by 1 month.
Right.
And
or one report of any kind.
One.
I mean, if it's a report that covers a year or maybe even longer span, okay, then we can see a trend. But 1 month, a report on 1 month does not constitute a trend.
Well, I would expect that we would see increases in productivity increasing just because of technology and AI.
Right. Yes.
And the other thing is the deregulation of so many just absurd regulations on industry and business. Yeah. So to me, I look at that and go, okay, that is what it would be expected,
right,
or you hope would be expected. The other thing is let me see, this was James Freeman in the Wall Street Journal. Job market gets better for workers at small firms. The job market for U.S. workers at small companies is better than previously reported, and wage increases have become more common. That's according to the National Federation of Independent Business report that was out on Friday. Adding to the positive economic news, productivity across the U.S. economy had another good quarter. That means that, especially at small firms, people were seeing raises, and the raises are based on the fact that they're being more productive.
Right.
And so, that's the macro way to look at it. The micro way to look at it, I don't know. I can't tell you. Is it AI? Is it technology? Is it whatever other efficiencies that they're using? So that's the good news.
Yeah.
The bad news is the job market absolutely sucks. And I'm going the last year. The last 10 months. Because if you look at Liberation Day in April of 2025, and that effect probably started taking effect in May. Since May of last year, across the United States, we have had an increase of we've had a decrease of 19,000 jobs. Manufacturing jobs over the last year, close to 80,000 lost. That's the bad news.
It is.
And by the way, it's unrelated to the Iran war, because this was
Right,
last month.
right.
Came out. So
well, and also the entire, if you're looking at how big the miss was on the median forecast for the unemployment report, we're talking about a swing of 142,000. It was the median forecast was plus 50,000 jobs added, but the reality was a loss of 92,000. That's a huge swing. And you look, the prior month was a bit of a surprise. It was a miss in the opposite direction by the median forecast, and it was plus 126. Again, you and we have talked about it often, but every time we talk about the unemployment report, we go back to when a robust economy would be adding about 250,000 jobs a month. And now you're in this situation where, again, I don't know this, because here's what we look at. Here's how this is put together. These are employer surveys, right? So there's 3 sets of surveys. And the Trump administration, they brought it up sometime last year. And they talked about the methodology for it. You know, maybe we should wait until all 3 surveys are done till you issue any report.
Yikes.
Yeah, well, you might not want to do that because it gets to be right now, it would do more damage for you politically. But it is 3 different surveys, right? So they're surveying employers, and that first set of responses comes back, and there's a revision, then the final revision. And that final revision basically is the okay, that's the last of the employers responding, and it puts together the whole picture. What's happening right now, I would love to look at the dynamics, because what I'd like to see is a survey of employers who are, as you point out, productivity is up. The question is, how much does that have to do with the implementation of AI in assisting humans right at this point? Not necessarily taking over roles completely, but assisting humans. And if it is a combination of, okay, not only is it, because it's moving very quickly, not only is it part of assisting employees in doing their job and making the humans more efficient, but it's also, in some cases, you talk about the implementation to where humans aren't needed anymore. One of the things we look at is in the tech world, coding, right? Biden told you to go learn to code. Well, on the surface, that was horrible advice, because AI now we're almost at the point where AI is going to be doing all the coding, and the tech companies, the tech leaders have been saying that now for a while. And it's actually happening. It's being demonstrated. And for all of us non-tech people, we may not see it, but if you pay attention to any of the news coming out of the tech world, including I think it was the chief technical officer at Amazon, who sat on the call with his employees. He said, look, in 5 years from now, this goes back, I think, last year or year before, but he said within 5 years, humans won't be doing the coding. It'll be AI. And I think it may be coming sooner than he had predicted then. This is, again, part of the equation. And when we talk, and you saw the president, I listened to the president last week. He had the tech people there with him talking about building their own power plants, something Mike Rowe has talked about. The infrastructure, how many humans will be needed to build the infrastructure to support AI and then maintain it along the way. But beyond that, and it also applies to that, the mismatch of skills and experience. Because if you're not in construction or an engineer or whatever, in order to build all that, to help build that infrastructure, you may not have that experience. And that kind of experience, obviously, only happens with time. So there are these gaps that are going to be there. And that's the question. I would love to know why there was such a huge miss on this unemployment report, why the median forecast was at 50, and all of a sudden you have a swing of 142,000. It's a negative 92,000. That was not good.
And as they showed, the household survey was less gloomy. That survey showed the number of workers employed part-time for economic reasons declined by some 1 million over the past 2 months, and the unemployment rate has remained more or less steady at 4.4%.
Right.
The ADP payroll report and the Institute for Supply Management Services report this week showed both job growth last month. So go figure. 28,000 of the job losses came from healthcare, 27,000 leisure and hospitality, manufacturing lost 12,000, construction 11,000. Listen to this: motion picture production lost 9,500 jobs last month.
You know, there are more in Hollywood right now that are sending up the red flag and all the warnings, and I mean like names you would know. Talking about how it is just going away very quickly. Things are just, eroding very quickly. A friend of mine that works in movies as a stuntman was telling me, he said it just seems like Hollywood is just kind of disappearing. You know, he also owns land where they could go do exterior shots. Movie companies could rent it and go out there and do exterior shots. And he's going to sell the land because nobody's shooting out there anymore. You know, Taylor Sheridan seems to be the only guy in the entertainment industry who's growing, and I don't know how he gets all the time to write all the shows that he's writing.
Do you know something? I was like, what? I still got to figure out more about it.
Yeah.
I'm on the group text for all of our neighbors.
Yeah.
And one of our neighbors on our street said, look, there may be a lot of cars out in front of my house, but we're working on Taylor Sheridan stuff. I'm like, what are they talking about?
Yeah, they rent houses to our old producer, David, at WBAP. He actually rented his house out. He's got the coolest house. But he rented his house out one time for a commercial shoot.
That's not what it's for.
It wasn't?
No, they are putting together all of the costumes, all the...
Oh, they're working. Okay.
They're all at the house. We're putting together all the costumes and everything else at her house.
Okay.
For whatever they're, I don't know whether it's Yellowstone or whatever. I just, I read it very quickly and I'm just like, okay.
I saw
I'm going to stop by and ask.
I saw this guy who is a farmer, and he used to go to, I think it was Tractor Supply Company or somewhere. And they saw him in the store, somebody from their corporate office, and called him and said, hey, you want to be in commercials? And he said, yeah, because you're a real farmer. So he did commercials for a little while. Taylor Sheridan sees him, and now he's doing Landman. He's doing, he's not a star, but he's in several episodes of that. Wow. And the Hollywood, here's what I think they're learning, or have learned, and learned it years ago, but now it's being implemented to a larger degree, and that is, you can go to other states and produce, because you look at California, just the cost of producing that, right? But then you add to it the woke factor. There are people that have been writing shows for years that are now unemployed, and part of that is because the heads of those studios would say, nope, we can't tell that joke. Our friend Steve Byrne, when he had a show, Sullivan and Son on TBS, he was in studio telling us how he was dealing with the network of, well, you have to have more of this and more of this. He goes, look, I'm Irish and Korean, and that's the basis for my character in the show. Roy Wood Jr., who's African American, Ahmed,
Egyptian.
Egyptian. All of the, the diversity couldn't be more clear, but it wasn't even about that. It was about funny. And then they still were saying, you haven't represented everybody in your show.
Right.
That's the thing that will kill Hollywood, and it looks like it's happening.
We are Red Eye Radio.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Now, the one thing, we've seen oil prices, skyrocket, and people wonder how that will affect the economy. It might be a blip if this war's over in a month, but even before that, because Iran doesn't have a navy anymore.
No, right.
And the U.S. military's already said we'll escort every tanker.
Yep.
Through the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
So there's not going to be a problem. And you have, as you think about it, you really have unity with the United States from so many Middle Eastern countries.
It's unbelievable.
That you've never seen before.
My wife and I were having the conversation. We were traveling over the weekend, and we were having the conversation, and we're both kind of just dumbfounded that this is actually happening. Because you step outside of the political fray here domestically, the liberals and, who are going to object to anything Trump does, like we've said the old joke, he could walk on water and they'll scream he doesn't know how to swim. You know what I mean? It's that thing that they, it's built in. They can't go any other direction, with the exception of Fetterman, right? But you look outside of that. You look at this consensus in the Middle East, with the exception of the Iranian regime, what's left of it, and it is positive. It is that this had to happen, and they're thankful that it has.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.